Hello, and Merry Christmas Eve to you. That's when I'm recording this. So yeah, apparently the Disaster Artist was not the last drive home review of the year. This is actually a drive to get a haircut review. I actually saw the movie yesterday and doing the review today. Not that you care about those details. So this one is, it's interesting the patterns that evolve this year in terms of the movies. When looking at my best and worst and meh list, I'm seeing all these patterns emerge. And it's interesting that not only is this the second Churchill movie I've seen, this is now the third movie that focuses very strongly on the events of Dunkirk that I have seen this year. I've learned more about Dunkirk this year than I have in the previous 37 years of my life. Matter of fact, as I'm sitting there watching this movie, I'm basically trying to piece the history together from the various movies I've seen over the past year. I mean, you have this one, which is, Winston Churchill getting, elected and put into the role of Prime Minister, and that leads to the planning of the Dunkirk operation. Then you have the Christopher Nolan film Dunkirk, which would come next. Then you could watch Their Finest, which is a movie about people making a movie about Dunkirk during the war. And then you can watch Churchill, which is about the planning of D-Day. So yeah. So this movie's getting a lot of critical praise. And it's not that I don't think it's deserved. It's just, there's not much in this that I haven't seen in about a dozen other historical films or historical Churchill movies. The problem I have with a lot of these movies is that the history of them, it seems very, very inconsistent. Like, you're never sure, what the details are. Like, in some movies, the king that, Colin Firth played in King's Speech, the king and Winston Churchill knew each other and got along and were best as buddies. In ones like this one, no, the king didn't like Winston Churchill. He didn't think he was good, and and the king and in some movies Churchill didn't like Wallace Simpson, who married the original king, and that's why he abdicated the throne. But in this one, he said that he supported the marriage. And in some ones, the king is a strong and good leader. In other ones, he's a pathetic little wimp. It's like, in some movies, again, the biggest difference between this Churchill and the other Churchill film I saw is in that movie, Winston Churchill and his wife kind of hated each other. In this one, they're all lovey-dovey and whatnot. I mean, it's like, I can't rectify all of these inconsistencies in my brain. That's nothing to say of the quality of the film. There's just not a lot going on with this film to get into much. The only thing you can do is compare it to other films. So I guess the big thing about this one is everyone's making a big deal about Gary Oldman and his portrayal of Churchill. And I'm going to be honest, while it is a very good acting job, and I don't know if it's makeup or if they had him gain weight, it's probably a combination. He does look a lot different than he ever did. This does not look like Gary Oldman, like you'd seen him in other films. With other films, you go, oh, Gary Oldman, whatever. This is a really good makeup and everything job. But the performance itself, while not bad, it has the same kind of problem that I kind of had with James Franco's performance in Disaster Artist, in that I don't feel like a lot of it is an actual performance so much as it is just walking around and talking without, I don't feel like there's a lot of performance going on there. I feel like the accent and everything is getting in the way. I said this during my review of Natalie Portman's film Jackie, and I stand by this. I kind of wish we could go back to the early days of biopics where it didn't matter if the actors looked exactly like the person or if they talked exactly like the person. They were just up there playing the character. And it felt like in that instance, there was actually a little bit more acting going on and not, well, if I talk with their accent or dialect, that's all I really need. Now, I'm not saying that's all he did. It's a good performance, but again, I don't ever feel like it's much beyond a big impersonation. And of course Winston Churchill has one of those really distinct voices and very distinct accents and postures and all that it's easy to kind of mimic. I don't have the turn signal, buddy. Anyway, I don't think it's a bad performance. I don't think it's this great Oscar-worthy performance, though it will probably get nominated for an Oscar. And that's the other thing. That's kind of the thing I have a little bit of a problem with this film. This film is Oscar bait. Now, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that from a, directorial and all that standpoint. It's fine. You want to put out your prestige picture to get the Oscar noms. I understand that. But this one, especially the direction of it, really is trying to be all artsy and shit with the shots and with, they love doing the shot where the character comes out and looks up and the camera zooms out from them and it zooms up into this wide shot like you're viewing it from the sky, and then a plane flies over. They do that shot like 3 or 4 times. They love shots of Churchill, with, the light coming from behind him so you just see the silhouette. A lot of shots that are you just really feel like they're there to show off how artsy the film is and how this and that the film is, and not really a lot shots I felt needed to be there to help tell the story. I think, you should use interesting shots and interesting photography for telling, if it's helping you tell the story. And I don't think it really was in this instance. I feel like it was just kind of there. That's the other thing I got. I said this in the other Churchill review too. I should just post that one again because it's basically the same movie almost. That Colin Firth kind of did what, Christopher Reeves did for Superman, what Adam West did for Batman, what Tobey Maguire did for Spider-Man, that all performances of that character forever are going to be compared to that iconic one, And so I know it's a daunting task for any British actor to be handed the role of King Charles II, I believe, and told, okay, now you have to do this role that Colin Firth did so well and won an Oscar for in this film. But so that's got to be daunting. But both guys in both Churchill movies this year, neither one of them have done it well. This guy really played down the stuttering, which is okay, but he ended up sounding like Elmer Fudd. Winston, we will not do that. It's like, and I get, he's trying to, the stutter is not the story as it was in the King's Speech, but it's like, he did. Will we go to war? I'm not trying to make fun of the guy in his speech a bit. I'm just saying this actor, sounded weird. He sounded really weird. So I don't want to make it sound like this film is, was terrible, because it wasn't. It just, there wasn't anything really remarkable about it. It had some really good scenes. There's a really great scene that was really kind of, it hit those right kind of, I want to say patriotic, but I'm not British, but those kind of patriotic tones I think the film was going for as a whole. Because the whole movie is basically Churchill gets put into office as prime minister, and right away nobody likes him, so the other guys are in the party and all that are all trying to get him to get him kicked out, and they want him to negotiate peace and all that with Germany. So anyway, for a while it looks like Winston's gonna give in and try to negotiate, and he takes a ride on the tube, the subway for us, and talks to the people on the tube and says, what would you say, how do you feel? What do you feel about, all this? Do you think we should negotiate a peace? Do you think we should do this? And the people are like, no, we'll fight. We'll fight all of them. We'll fight them with broomsticks if we have to, and all this. I'm selling it short with my description, but it was actually a really good scene and a really kind of powerful scene, and one that it's impossible. You kind of wish politicians would kind of do a little bit more, is actually go and talk to people and see what's going on. But anyway, so that was a really good scene. And again, it's like there's nothing inherently wrong with this movie. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's not the worst film I've seen all year. It's just it's very by the numbers. If you've seen one Churchill movie, which I've seen one this year, you've kind of seen them all. They haven't added anything, and I don't know what you can add or what you can do different. It's the person's life. You can't say, and then suddenly, he flew into space to fight, the Klingons. Of course, if Abraham Lincoln can be a vampire hunter, I guess, who knows. But yeah, I think all the things that were kind of good and interesting about the other Churchill movie I saw this year are there, and all the problems that it had are still in this one. I think it still kind of drags a bit. I think it's a little too long. And I said, this one is a lot more full of itself. This one knows that, especially with Gary Oldman as, Churchill, that it is going for that Oscar gold. And it is going for it hard. So the directing, the acting, the way shots are set up, all kind of reek of that. Isn't this an important film? Give us an Oscar kind of feel. And, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Some great movies come out of stuff like that. But on the other hand, I think the great movies are the ones that are great and don't need the extra, begging, added on top of it. That's me. Trying to think of anything else about this one, because again, if you're a World War II buff or a Winston Churchill person or a history buff, then this is going to be a movie you're going to enjoy. I think they do. It checks all the boxes and checks them, in a better than average style. If you're not, first of all, I don't know why you're going to this movie, but if you're not, you're probably going to be bored. But you might learn a little something. If you haven't seen a ton of World War II films or a ton of Churchill movies, I think you'll get something out of it. You'll probably learn something you didn't know before. But if not, I honestly, I can guarantee this is probably going to get nominated for a bunch of Oscars. Gary Oldman is probably going to get nominated for an Oscar, and I would not be surprised if he wins. But if you ask me, does he deserve it? He's Gary Oldman, so I think Gary Oldman deserves an Oscar at some point because he's awesome. But does he deserve it for this picture? I could be persuaded that there are people who gave better performances over the years, or over the year, I should say. So short, sweet, and to the point. That's Darkest Hour for you. So this will definitely be the last review before Christmas. I'm hoping to kind of see a few other movies before I go back to work. Well, my parents are still here, but I don't know when the reviews for those will be done and up. So once more, let's keep with tradition, shall we? While I do this. So there we are. So once more, a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah. Everything else, Merry whatever to you. And I hope that you have a good one. I hope you and your family are happy and safe and warm. And here's to a wonderful new year for all of us. So for Drive Home Reviews, let me say, drive safe, and I'll see you at the movies.